The Zitharian Empire had ruled the Andromeda sector for over 10,000 cycles. Their crystalline ships casting shadows across 100 conquered worlds, their queen, Zothera the Eternal, was known throughout the galaxy as both brilliant and ruthless, a being whose very presence could make diplomats tremble and warriors reconsider their life choices. Kevin Hayes was neither a diplomat nor a warrior. He was a salvage operator, and not even a particularly successful one. His ship, the Rusty Nebula, rifted through the debris field of what had once been the trading station, Epsilon 7. The attack had happened only hours ago. Zitharian rebels. From what Kevin could piece together from the distress signals, the irony wasn't lost on him. Even the galaxy's most powerful empire had those who opposed it. Life Science detected his ship's AI announced in its perpetually bored tone, approximately 40 meters starboard within the station's medical base section. Kevin sighed. Survivors meant complications. Complications meant delays. Delays meant his creditors would have even more reasons to hunt him down, but he'd never been good at ignoring people in need. It was one of the many reasons he was broke. The medical bay was a twisted sculpture of metal and shattered glass. Emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across overturned equipment and floating medical supplies. In the center of the chaos, protected by a shimmering energy barrier that was rapidly failing, huddled a young Zitharian female. She couldn't have been more than a juvenile by their standards. Her crystalline carapace still retained the soft violet hue of youth rather than the deep purple of maturity. She stared at Kevin with eyes that swirled like miniature galaxies, wide with fear. "It's okay," Kevin said softly, holding up his hands. "I'm here to help." The barrier flickered and died. The young Zitharian's breathing became rapid, her form trembling. Kevin noticed the jagged piece of metal protruding from her side, the strange luminescent fluid that served as Zitharian blood pooling beneath her. He'd never treated a Zitharian before. Hell, he'd barely seen one up close. But trauma was trauma, and bleeding was bleeding. Kevin worked quickly, using materials from the destroyed medical bay and his own ship's emergency kit. The young alien's physiology was different. Her crystalline structure required careful handling, but the principles were similar enough. Stop the bleeding, stabilize the patient, keep them calm. "What's your name?" he asked as he worked, trying to keep her conscious. "Jasmine," she whispered, the translator unit around her neck, struggling with the unfamiliar human language pattern. "I am Jasmine, daughter of," she gasped as Kevin sealed the wound with biofoam. "Save your strength," Kevin interrupted. "You can tell me your life story once we're safe." It took 3 hours to get her stable enough to move, 3 hours during which Kevin expected rebel ships to return, Imperial forces to arrive, or his own ship to finally give up and explode. It had been threatening too for months. But fortune, for once, seemed to be on his side. He was carrying Jasmine to his ship when the sky above the debris field split open. Not metaphorically. The fabric of space itself tore apart in a display of power that made Kevin's knees weak. Through the rift came a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational pull, the Zitharian flagship Eternal Crown, personal ship of Queen Zothera herself. "Oh, shit," Kevin breathed. Smaller ships poured from the flagship like angry insects, securing the area in minutes. Kevin found himself surrounded by Zitharian warriors, their weapons trained on him even as medical personnel rushed forward to take Jasmine from his arms. The young princess, because of course she was a princess. Kevin's luck was just that good, reached out to him as they took her away. "He saved me, Mother," she called out in a weak voice. "The human saved me." Queen Zothera descended from her ship like a goddess from ancient human mythology. She was icily 3 meters tall, her crystalline form a deep, royal purple that seemed to absorb light. Her crown wasn't a separate object but part of her very being. The spires that grew from her head and pulsed with inner luminescence. She looked at Kevin the way scientists might look at an interesting specimen. Then she looked at her daughter, being tended to by the finest medical minds in the Empire. "You saved my daughter's life," Zothera said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Kevin managed. "Why?" Kevin blinked. "Why, she was hurt. What else was I supposed to do?" The Queen's eyes, swirling voids of cosmic energy, studied him for a long moment. Then she did something that made every Zitharian present gasp in shock. She bowed. Not a slight nod. A full, formal bow of the type reserved for equals. For honored allies. For those whom the Empire owed a debt it could never repay. "Kevin Hayes of Earth," Zothera announced, her voice carrying across every ship, every planet, every station in the Empire through quantum-linked broadcasts. "You have done what no amount of wealth or military might could accomplish. You saved what I treasure most in all of creation. I offer you, in the presence of witnesses across the galaxy, the eternal debt of the Zitharian crown." The galaxy watched. The eternal debt was legendary, a promise made only twice before in 10,000 years of Zitharian history. It meant the full might, resources, and protection of the Empire, offered without limitation or end. Human colonies that had struggled for recognition suddenly found themselves with the galaxy's most powerful ally. Earth, Kevin's homeworld, became untouchable overnight. Trade routes opened. Technology was shared. The balance of galactic power shifted. And Kevin, he just wanted to make sure Jasmine was okay. Is she going to be all right? he asked the Queen. Zothar's expression softened, a change so subtle that only Kevin, standing so close, could see it. She will recover fully, thanks to your quick action. My physicians say another hour and the damage would have been irreversible. Good, Kevin said, relief flooding through him. That's good. The Queen studied him again, this time with something that might have been curiosity. You ask not for wealth, or power, or territory. You ask only about her welfare. Well, yeah, I'm not going to save someone just to cash in later. That's not how it works. Perhaps not for humans, Zothira said quietly. We have much to learn from your species, Kevin Hayes, much indeed. Later, as his debt-ridden salvage ship was being upgraded by the finest Zotharian engineers whether he wanted it or not, Kevin sat with Jasmine in the flagship's medical bay. She was recovering quickly, her natural crystalline structure already regenerating. My mother says you've changed the course of galactic history, Jasmine said, amusement in her voice. Kevin shrugged. I just did what anyone should do. That, Jasmine replied, is precisely why you changed everything. And across the galaxy, 100 civilizations watched in wonder as humanity's stubborn, compassionate, impossibly idealistic humanity proved once again why they were the most unpredictable force in the cosmos. Not because they were the strongest, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but because when they saw someone in need, their first instinct was always to help. The end.